Are you fed up with the corporate bullshit holding you back? Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast, the ultimate launchpad for entrepreneurs ready to seize control and unleash their creative genius. Hosted by Phil Better, the Podcast Mogul. Each week, he's breaking the chains of conventional work with bold strategies, raw insights, and inspiring success stories from the digital entrepreneurs who took the risk and invested in themselves. This is your call to arms. Invest in yourself, break free from someone else's rules, and build the empire you deserve. Now let's dive headfirst into today's explosive episode.
Welcome back to another captivating and exciting episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we have the privilege of hosting an extraordinary entrepreneur whose journey is a powerful testament to innovation, empowerment, and the relentless pursuit of impact. They hold degrees in science from Tuskegee University and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Our guest uniquely marries her academic background with a profound commitment to social entrepreneurship. In 2018, she founded an organization that has become a beacon of hope and empowerment, guiding over 300 Black girls annually on their path to social and economic advancement. Not stopping there, she's launched a boutique consulting firm in 2020 because she wasn't busy enough, helping over 25 small businesses and nonprofits flourish through strategic business development and operations. Her vision continues to expand with the creation of an online social club connecting Black women globally, addressing the challenges of loneliness among successful individuals. Most recently, she's introduced an innovative venture that reflects both her personal journey and professional expertise, promising to offer more than just advice, but experience that drives personal growth, connection, and of course, breakthroughs. Despite her busy entrepreneurial life, she finds great joys at home in Arizona, reading with her husband and her son, or traveling the world creating memories. So let's dive into the mind and motivations of a woman who's not only building businesses, but fostering communities and crafting narratives for empowerment. Please welcome the visionary founder and the CEO and a simple force of nature, Kalyanna Williams. Yanni, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to talk to you again. We talked about your podcasting expertise, but now we're talking business, which is always so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me, and what an introduction. I need that. I'm like, I need that. That was good.
Yeah, I always look at, I'm not the star of this show. I am just this hype person. I get the opportunity to talk to amazing people who are stars in their own right. They are the rap stars, they're the rock stars, and I always wanted to be a hype person, so this is how I do it. I'm answering the goals of my life.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, I'm excited. So we're going to start off with the first question that I always ask. Why? What made you decide to become the CEO of Dear Diary and Diary Design? What made you decide to jump into the world?
Yeah, I was thrown into the world. Do people actually choose entrepreneurship, or does entrepreneurship choose people?
There's a bit of both. Like if they grew up in entrepreneur worlds, they choose to go into it. But if they have that bug inside them that says, hey, we don't fit in here. My last guest says I'm unmanageable.
No, I get that.
That's the
I completely get that. And I think that is true for me. I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. It actually wasn't even something that was on my radar as an option. I am a millennial. And so like many millennials, we were told, we kind of grew up in the very interesting, we grew up with technology, but the very early parts of technology, we were still on the house phones and the dial-up. And then, I remember being like, Mom, can I get on the internet for an hour? Are you expecting any calls? Right? Because we had to disconnect the phone, connect the computer. And it was super slow. Yeah. I know.
The memories of just hearing the modem connect to the crap.
Exactly. And you're like, yeah, all of that. So I think that for us, and really for me, it was you graduate from high school, you get a really good job, or you go to college, excuse me, you get a really good job, you work that job, you work your way up, you continue to build, and then you retire and you live your life once you retire, right? But for a lot of millennials who grew up there and then kind of matriculated through the digital age, what we realized was we kind of were sold a pipe dream a little bit. And what was realistic and expected then looks very, very, very different now. And none of us knew that it was going to be this now. But very similar to many millennials, I went to college, graduated, got a degree, got a really good job right out of school. And my work started in nonprofit. So I was a grant writer for a while and absolutely loved that. And it allowed me to be creative. I love the sciences. So my background is in animal and poultry science, and I love science. But what I realized was that there was a piece of me that was missing, right? Like you mentioned, that little like bubbling inside. I'm like, something is missing. And what I found was I wasn't utilizing all of my skills in my job. So what I did was I went to my employer and was like, this has been good, but I need something else. Like I'm able to finish my work really fast. So I'm like taking on these random projects, and my employer was like, okay, let's find something that better fits your skill set and your desires to continue to grow. So I became a professor for a little while and I loved it, but I still kind of felt that like something missing. And I did a ton of engagement in the community. I was a grant writer for a board. I was a grant writer for a couple boards, and that was helping me to merge some of my passions with community, with still being able to have my job and pay my bills and all of that, because that was important as well. And when I started Dear Diary, I actually wrote Dear Diary as a freshman in college, and I sat on it for 10 years. Like it was just in a Google Drive for 10 years. And this is back when Google Drives were still like super, super new. So I was very shocked that when I came back 10 years later, it was still there. So, not that Google pays me or anything, but good job for this platform existing for 10 years. And I remember there was a grant opportunity available and the community that I was in, and they were looking for mentoring organizations for youth. And I was like, oh yeah, I wrote this mentoring organization back in college. I went to the board and was like, how do you feel about me submitting a grant for this organization? And my board was like, you can do it. However, they had just told me to stop writing. So right before that, my board was like, no more grant writing, because I had secured a lot of funding for us. And we had to do these projects. So a lot of people are like, oh, grants are free money. It's not free money. You have to do whatever it is you told them you were going to do to get the money. So my board was like, no more writing, because we have a ton of projects that you've gotten us funding for, and we need to execute those. So I was like, well, can I sneak this last one in? And they were like, you can do this one. However, if you get it, you have to run the entire project. And I was like, okay, all right, let's just see what happens, right? Submitting this grant was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do, because I was dealing with a lot of I was just busy. It was a busy season for me. I think the grant was due like November of 2018. And I'm like, November, right? Like school is ending soon. I'm trying to like prepare for finals, get all of my grades submitted, do a bunch of reporting. Like it was just such a busy time. I got that grant and it was due at noon. I'll never forget it. I was on a panel that morning. And I had drove back from Chicago for traveling for work. Right before that, I was on a panel that morning, and I was at the school that I had the panel at. I was like, I have a grant that's due in 45 minutes. I'm not going to make it back to my office to submit. Can I submit it here? They were like, yes, we'll put you in our office. Like, we'll get you hooked up to the internet. You can submit here. I submitted at 11:58.
Wow.
I left there and had a freaking parking ticket. Oh my God. Like, oh my goodness. And a few weeks later, I had an interview for that grant, and probably 2 or 3 days later, I got a phone call that we were fully funded. Our request was $60,000. That was the max we could request. We had been fully funded at the 60, and my entrepreneur journey started like in that moment. It was one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, we got it. Like, I can't believe we got it. But then I also was like, oh shit, we got it. we got it, right? Like, because now you start to think about like, I actually have to do this. And it was me, and I had hired, kind of recruited an assistant director. And she and I, it was like, we got it. So now we actually have to execute and do this work. So I was just jumped in, I like to say. And really, it was passion work for me. And now that I'm in it, I don't encourage passion work because it makes it less of a passion once you're in it as an entrepreneur. Once it becomes work, it's not as passion focused as it used to be when I first started. But it was always, for me, I have always been successful. I've always been studious, which is nice. But that's not true for a lot of Black girls and a lot of Black women. And what I found was, while I've always been very studious and very successful, I haven't always felt like I had permission to be myself and to navigate the world the way that I saw fit for myself. So because of that, creating Dear Diary was really an opportunity for me to give back what I didn't have. And so our focus was to, and still is, to create spaces where Black girls and Black women can be themselves as they would in their diary out loud. And Dear Diary allowed me to be myself out loud, and now to give that to other Black girls and Black women, allowing them to be themselves out loud as well. So to answer your question, I started Dear Diary selfishly. I was jumped in, but selfishly, because these were the spaces that I was looking for when I was a teenager, and spaces that I felt that if I had them before college and career and all of those things, potentially, I don't know for sure, but I could have felt better and more prepared in the spaces that I navigated once I had kind of hit the peak of some of the career and professional success that I was seeking.
I love, first of all, the fact that you you submitted a grant on something that you were passionate about 2 minutes before it was due. And you had the support of the school that you were at, the university, or the where you were doing the panel, the support that you had from them, that is insanity. And just the universe saying, got to keep you're in check, because the universe will give you a lot, but it also will be like, let's calm down. We're going to give it to you, but we need you to bring it down with that little parking ticket.
Yeah.
I think is a nice little add-on. But I love how you did it because you didn't have those spaces when you were younger. And I feel like a lot of millennials, when we do jump into the entrepreneurial world, we do things because we didn't have it when we were younger, when we were growing up. We didn't have access to StreamYard or, high-tech HD stuff to be able to communicate and share our message. And you're going about it, you're like, I want to make sure that the people that come after me, your legacy is helping these ladies have the space so that they can be their authentic self. How worried were you? Once you submitted, because obviously you submit the draft and the request, and it's like, okay, it's out of mind, out of sight. I don't have to worry about it, right? The millennial thing, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist anymore. When you finally got told, hey, yeah, you got this, you're good to go, did your stress level go up knowing that you had to run the whole thing? And I don't know if you had the expertise to do it, but what was the level of stress that you faced when you finally were like, oh, I now have to do this?
You know what? Honestly, the work itself was easier than I think the work itself was easier than the business side of it, right? Because I had done the work. So it wasn't new work for me. I had been in schools. I had done some mentoring. I used to be a cheerleading coach when I was in high school. So I've done programs and services for kids, for youth. So that wasn't necessarily a problem. The other nice thing was that I was partnering with a friend of mine who was my assistant director at the time. She was a social worker at the high school. So I had connections. In the community that we were hosting this at, one of our friends was the director of the community center, the park community center. So that was some of those things. My husband was a school counselor at the high school. He was my boyfriend then, but I like had the connections to do the work. Like I knew how to do the work. I think the scary part was running the business. So you get, okay, it's like, okay, I have this $60,000, which is actually pretty good to like start your business. Like people are like, did you bootstrap your business? I'm like, actually, no, I had a pretty good investment to start. That wasn't necessarily that was the harder part. Like, okay, how do I budget this $60,000? What do I spend funding on? Excuse me. This was a reimbursement grant. So you kind of do bootstrap a little bit because you have the money, but you have to spend it in order to get it. So I have to spend parts of the money and then they give it back. But if I don't have any money to start, I can't spend the money. So like that's really confusing when you're first starting because you don't actually have cash flow. You're guaranteed some funding, but it's not cash in hand. So some of those things were some of the things that I had to kind of work through. I was lucky enough to have the backing of the nonprofit that I was currently serving as a board member. So I didn't launch this thing and like Dear Diary was on its own. I had a parent company that was helping me to facilitate. So the nice thing is they had some capital that they were able to, sorry, Alexa's coming on for some reason. They had some capital that they were able to invest on my behalf. And then we were able to do some of the reimbursement. So I think it was the business that I didn't know because I hadn't run a business. I didn't know anything about running a business. That was more scary than the work. The work was easy.
But the actual job of what the business did was you obviously, like you said, you had the expertise from doing it, and it was the business side, the actual creating the revenue, creating the processes so that the business could run on its own. Do you feel that you kind of had a leg up without knowing how to run a business since you didn't have to worry about all the pitfalls that normally come with running a business since you were unaware of it?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe. I don't know, right? Because maybe, and I say maybe because now I'm in a space where I'm considering starting some new businesses. And the fact that I have some expertise makes it a little bit scary to jump. Whereas before I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I just tried something, right? Where now I'm like, I need to have this and I need to have this and I need to do this and I need to do that. Where I'm a little more stagnant and it's taking me a long time to jump. I kind of have a little bit of analysis paralysis because I know so much now that I'm like, I need a team, I need funding, I need like prototypes, I need blah, blah, blah. Whereas before, I would just jump and I would just try it. And if it worked, great. If it didn't, I had nothing to lose. Whereas now I feel like I have a little bit more to lose than I had before. So maybe being like new to it. It's like your first kid versus your second kid in a way. Now that I have a kid, I can say that. Your first kid, you jump in and you're like, yeah, I'm excited and I can do this. And then, by your second one, I can imagine you're like, okay, so when I have this kid, I'm not going to get any sleep for 4 to 6 weeks. That's going to be a really tough time. Like you kind of prepare a little different. So now my husband and I are like, we want a second kid, but like, do we?
It's like the pros and cons. It's like you have that experience, like you putting it back to the business. You have the experience. You've run a business. You've made those mistakes, quote unquote, or the learning opportunity. I like to look at it more as learning opportunities.
Yeah.
With the idea that you're going to be starting a new business, are you also excited because you have these opportunities to learn different skills? Because starting a second business in a different industry, I'm assuming, I'm going to make this assumption, even though assuming stuff makes you an ass out of yourself. But I'm assuming that it's in something different than something community-based where you're giving back to your past self, if you will, making sure that they have the opportunities that you never had when you were growing up. Do you feel that it's still an excitement, or is there still more fear involved since you already have run a business and a successful business at that when you're jumping into the next industry?
I think that it's a little bit of both, right? And I think that with entrepreneurship, it's always a little bit of both, right? And it's also a little bit of delusion, because I don't think that you can be an entrepreneur without being just a little bit crazy. And so it's a little delusion for me too, where you have this idea and you're like, I think it could be really good. But I don't quite know yet. I think the other piece of entrepreneurship is a part of it is also luck. And people don't want to talk about that. COVID was the best thing that could have happened to my business. Like it just like hit the gas on our, like the acceleration on our success. Like we were serving 15 in 2019 as a new organization, and we were up to 300 by the end of 2020. Right. And we took 4 or 5 months off because of COVID, and we were sheltered in place. So like, just to give you an idea of how quickly things happen. So for us, COVID was amazing. Like it was the best thing that could happen to us. The likelihood of me getting another COVID in my new business is slim to none, right? So who knows? So I think it is excitement. The new business is still focused on community. I've realized that I enjoy like bringing people together and like connecting dots for people. And, you know, I do a really good job of seeing a goal and kind of knowing what pieces need to be put together and what people need to go together and how they could work to build the thing and launch the rocket. I do a great job with that. So community will continue to be a huge part of any business that I run. Because it's just something that I enjoy. Like I enjoy doing things for other people. But I think there's a little bit of fear, a little bit of excitement. And also there's a little bit of, and I know this wasn't part of your question, but I'll add this too. There's a little bit of like, what does it look like to add another business when I already have 2 that have done well? Do I pivot now? Do I try to like merge this new thing with the old thing, or do I keep them separate? There's a little bit of that too. And I didn't have that before because I didn't have any businesses. So I was able to like wing it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like I just go back to work like I've been doing. But there's a little bit of that too. And then I also have staff with my other businesses. And so what does that look like for overseeing my staff? And do I exit? Do I hire on another CEO that runs the other companies while I try this new thing? So some of that kind of comes into play, you know, in all of these situations too. And I'll add one last thing. The other thing for me that's coming into play is I'm a parent. So I'm a parent who wants more kids. And starting businesses and growing your businesses looks very different for women than it does for men, because I have a kid. I'm pregnant for 9 months. I am then taking months off because I just had a kid and I'm recovering and all of those things. And so I think that I'm in a very interesting season in my life because I'm growing my family quite a bit right now. But also interested in like birthing new businesses and what does that process looks like, and that grind and that hustle that I was able to have in 2018 and 2020 when I started Dear Design that I just don't have here in 2024, almost 2025, now that I'm a mother and a wife. You know, it just looks a little different.
I kind of want to touch on the fact that you're a mother as well as a business owner, because like you said, it's a little different for the males in this world because we don't have, you know, we have to take 9 months off to grow a human, and the recovery after delivering a human. The only thing we can come close to is quote unquote birthing a business. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the closest we can. And even then, it's a shadow, if you will, of what you ladies have to go through. With starting businesses and having a family, there's, like I said, there's the birthing of the business. Do you feel that being a mother helps you with the creation of a new idea, since you've already created a life? You're creating another type of life. Do you feel that the skills you've learned as a mother help you when you're looking to launch another business?
It does. And I only have one kid, and my son just turned 1 2 weeks ago. So I'm still like a very, very, very new mother. But yes, it does. One of the things that I'm now realizing is before, I was like starting all of these different businesses for myself. And now my focus really is, how am I setting up my kids for the future that they will eventually have? And I think that we talk about legacy, and we don't talk about it a ton, but when you start businesses, you're like, I want to create my legacy, and I want to, be able to give something to my children and my great grandchildren and things of that nature. But until you actually have children, it looks very different, right? And so now I'm realizing that our son is watching everything we do. He's in this phase right now where he like picks up everything we do. He calls my husband babe because I call my husband babe, and he's like, I am your dad, but he's like, babe. It's so funny. But we're just realizing like kids literally pick up every little thing. And so how you're operating really says a lot to them and shows them quite a bit. We have I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but we have a journal that we use, and it's called Letters to My Son as I Watch You Grow Up. And what we do, my husband and I write letters to our son, just about anything, like, hey, it's your first birthday, blah, blah, blah. And one of the letters that I wrote him was about my commitment to my job and my work. And in it, I was like, being your mother is one of the greatest opportunities I've ever had. But I also really love my job. I really love the work that I do. And being able to do that work allows me to be a better mother to you. And just trying to help him understand, once he's older and, and he's like, mommy missed a football game because she was traveling for work or whatever that looks like, because I know something's going to happen. He understands as he's growing up, it's not like you or work, right? Work allows me to be able to give you the life that I want you to have, or the life that I dreamed of giving you to help you in your future. So it definitely helps. It gives you another like oomph. It gives you another level of like, I gotta go out. I have to do this. I have to get to it. But at the same time, you're like, I also don't want to miss moments. So what is it that I need to do in order to set up the life, right? And the schedules and the routines and all of the things to not miss these different opportunities with my son. So for us, what we've done is our son is here. He's home. We have a nanny, which helps us a ton. So he's home all day. My husband and I both work from home. We're very strict with like ending work when it's time to end work, unless it's some type of crazy season where we have to work a little bit longer. We outsource a ton of just house things. We outsource laundry. We outsource grocery shopping. We outsource cleaning, house cleaning, so that when we're off work, and it's our family time. We're very intentional with that. I cook dinner every night. That's a very important part of our routine. My husband and I both do bedtime together. So it's those types of things that my career has afforded me the privilege of being able to have access to, this like freedom of time, and hiring people to do things that most families have to do on their own, so that I can be super busy, but I can turn it off and be present with my family when it's time for me to do that as well.
You hit a very big point of entrepreneurship. It's buying back your time, paying people to do this task that are not under you, because obviously any job is never under anyone. It's the cost. Is it a cost benefit to you? I'm wondering, those lessons that you learned, how did you know that you needed to outsource some of the more domestic, I'll call them domestic tasks, if you will? How did you know that it was something important for you to do as both an entrepreneur, but also as a mother? Because you're coming from it from 2 points. Like, as an entrepreneur, yeah, paying someone to clean my house is great, but as a mother, you kind of have that thing. Because I know my mother would clean before the cleaning ladies would come up, and I always wondered why. But as a mother, I have to ask you, when did you figure out that it was appropriate to, one, pay someone else to do those domestic tasks that isn't a cost benefit to you? But second, do you sometimes have some reservations because you're a mother and it's somewhat of the role, quote unquote, of a mother to take care of the house?
Great question. Great question. So Dear Diary's focus is on helping Black girls and Black women write their own narrative, right? And being domestic was not my narrative. I knew that. So I knew that I didn't like cleaning. I enjoy cooking. It's very relaxing for me. I enjoy cooking. I hate cleaning. I hate laundry. And I grew to hate grocery shopping. So for me, I've actually had a housekeeper since I was in graduate school. And it was $70 I think I had her every 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, well, I kind of spend that on a weekend drinking. So one of those weekends I won't be able to go out drinking because it's going to be housekeeper weekend, which is fine. So I kind of looked at the cost like that, right? But I could leave school, get home, and my house is spotless. Like you can't buy that. You really just can't buy that kind of peace, right? So that's part of it. I've always known that I was going to be very career driven and professional driven. I've always known that. I always kind of had a vision for the life that I wanted for myself. I just didn't know what that meant yet. So I never quite felt guilty for outsourcing support. Because I always just, it never bothered me. Even before I got married, I was very clear with my husband, and we lived together. We actually moved in together during COVID. And I was like, listen, there are certain things that I'm just like not going to do. I'm not going to be cleaning. I'll do the laundry, but I don't want to. And so we were very clear on those roles, and we don't have gender roles where it's like my husband takes out the trash. I will not take out the trash. He travels like for a weekend, and I'm like, I've taken out the trash 3 times since you left. I hate the trash. My husband does that, and he doesn't have a problem with that. I also grew up with a little brother that's 10 years younger than me, and he loved taking out the trash because it was cool because, I was 15 and he was 5. So he's like, I want to take the garbage out. So like, please do take out the trash. But my husband picks up a lot of like domestic tasks as well. And now our nanny does a lot of our like day-to-day house cleaning and dishes and things of that nature. So it's never quite felt like a guilty thing. I've never felt guilty about getting help. I also think that we have to get rid of this narrative that like moms should do it all. Like moms are working. We are carrying children. We are taking care of children. My son is 1. I'm still nursing, which I've learned since I've started nursing just how much energy and capacity nursing takes on the body and on your mental and all of the things that I'm like, we have to get rid of guilt tripping mothers into this idea that we have to be like superhumans. It's a crazy idea that just doesn't make sense when you really think about the role of motherhood. I mean, that's a full-time job by itself. So I don't necessarily feel guilty. I'm actually very, very, very grateful and blessed that I have the privilege of buying back so much of my time. And as my husband and I are just navigating parenthood now, in the middle of a crazy financial economic crisis in this country, a lot of our luxuries are very expensive, right? And we're kind of watching the ebbs and flows of business right now. And there are just certain luxuries that we're like, we can't get rid of those because that means that we lose time with our family, and that's so invaluable for us. So I think it just really depends on what your priorities are and what you're okay with compromising. And for us, money is a tool for us to buy back our time and do some of the things that we're wanting to do. So don't necessarily feel guilty. I'm just very, very, very grateful that I'm able to be in this space where I can buy back my time, and be a mother according to the definition that I've set for what being a mother and motherhood actually looks like.
I love that. I love how you define the roles that you want to be by your own definitions instead of following the crowd, if you will, of what it should be.
And I feel really quick, I feel like I have to do that because and this has changed over the last 2 weeks with this whole political thing in the United States. However, the image and the narrative of Black womanhood in this country has always been negative. We're always the least paid. We are always, if you look at the stats, we have the most student loans. Our businesses fail the fastest. We receive the least amount of VC funding. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So really, the narrative for us is that you have to work 3 times as hard to be half as good. And really, I think it's we have to work 3 times as hard to get a piece of the pie. And I just rejected that. I've always rejected that. I think I mentioned this in the last one, that my aunt told me I was born with 2 disadvantages. I'm Black and I'm a woman, and the world's not going to give me anything. And because of that warning, and a lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that to you. But I needed that because I'm well, that's bullshit. Are you telling me that I'm going to have a shitty life because of something I have no control over? I have no control over being born a Black woman. Yeah, I'm not going to take that. So I'm going to write my own narrative, and I'm going to decide what a great life looks like for me. So I don't allow any of these labels, if you will, to define what kind of life I can and can't have. And those labels continue, right? You're a woman, now you're a mother. So that means this. It's yeah, no, not necessarily, right? Unless I allow it to mean that, I can reject that as my story. And so I've done just that.
You changed the question I wanted to ask you with that.
Sorry.
No, don't, please. No, never apologize, because it allows me to ask a better question.
Okay.
With you redefining, because you're redefining the roles of what it is to be a woman, be a Black woman owner of a business, being a mother, you're redefining all these roles. And of course, you're running this organization that helps the future women, the future Black women, the future leaders that we need in this world. Do you feel that you have some pressure on you because you're rewriting the script that society has been put on, and that society is still trying to, put the collar on people to fit the roles that we have, the predisposed narrative that we have? Do you feel any pressure with running this organization, helping future women, future Black leaders, if you will, because they will be future leaders, whatever they do? Do you feel there's pressure on you to constantly be rewriting what is considered the norm?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And in full transparency, in June, I took a pause from the organization and kind of put us all on a little bit of a sabbatical. And the reason was there was just a lot going on nationally as it relates to Black women and Black women businesses. There were a lot of different lawsuits, a ton of things going on with dismantling DEI efforts. And there's just been a lot going on. And in some of these cases and some of these things, I sit on both sides of understanding the problem and, and potential solutions. So I took a step back because I went to, am I fighting the right fight? am I in the right ring, or am I fighting to be able to say that I've been fighting? And another piece of that too is sometimes one of the things that I've realized is that my community, specifically Black girls and Black women, we even struggle accepting that we can be the different things outside of this narrative and what people have told us we can do and we can be. So some of the what is the word? It's not pressure, but what was it?
I said role, but
no, some of the pushback, that's the word I want to use. Some of the pushback that I get is from the very community that I serve, right? Which is intricate. So it's a very interesting dynamic. So some of it is because we as Black girls and Black women have not seen or even been given permission to be ourselves out loud or to write our own stories or any of those things. It's really hard for us to think and accept that we can actually do it and shift our own mindset towards doing it, and receiving some of the help and the support. So it took me a second. I needed to kind of step back and really start to get to the root of all of these different moving pieces. And I think recently with just the announcement of Kamala running and Biden stepping down and all the different things, it has been a very, as soon as she announced it, I saw a post that was like, Black women, be prepared for whatever the noise is going to be in this political climate. And whatever people are going to say about us and who we are and all of the things. And I saw another post where somebody was like, we're used to this. Like, we're used to this negative whatever. But then you have some people and some sides of this coin where they're like, finally, we see the light. We see some hope. Right? And so now it's been this, like, what does it mean to be a Black woman when we're not like saving the world or doing something that makes people proud of us, or, this thing where people are clapping for us all of a sudden, because there's this ebb and flow of one day we're being sued for programs and services that are supposed to help us advance. And then the next day you're clapping for us because we're hope and we're showing you that we can do it. And that, so it's a very interesting, weird just time. And as a leader of an organization for Black girls and Black women and a Black woman myself, I just needed a second. Like, I just needed to step back for a second, and really wrap my mind around what is the direction that I want my company to go in. And what is the direction that I want to go in personally? And one thing we haven't talked about is like the financial part of business, right? Like, what's the thing that also pays the bills, right? Like, is this the thing that's going to actually pay the bills? And be a long sustaining company. All of those things have been pressure for me in business. And I'm actually still kind of sitting in that. I'm still sitting a little bit in that pressure of all of the trying to change the story, trying to change the narrative, and trying to make that a business, and trying to get people to invest in that, trying to get people to, even the people that I serve, to invest in that. I'm like, is there an easier business? Can I just sell Stanley cups or something? Like, what is something that I can do that just doesn't require so much
energy?
Personal. Yeah. Where, like, sometimes I feel like I'm running on a treadmill and I'm like going nowhere really, really, really fast. But we're like, I promise if you run on that treadmill every day, you will lose weight. And I'm like, yeah, I've been running for 3 days and I haven't lost any weight yet. Right. And you're like, but you need to run for like 3 years. You're like, 3 years? You ever ran on a treadmill for 60 seconds? 3 years? Right? Like, I say the slowest thing is a treadmill minute. Like, a treadmill minute is like a day. It's crazy.
It's like a 30-second
yeah.
plank. It's like a 30-second plank. It's the longest thing in the world.
It's like, oh my God, 30 seconds should not take this long. My body is like quivering.
Yanni, we are coming to the end of the episode. It passed so quickly.
I know, we always say that.
It is.
We're like, dang, what
it's like
started.
I thought we just press start. I'm having I love our conversations because it's I get to talk to someone who has a different experience than I've ever had in my life and is doing something that I feel is changing the narrative. For both, not just women, but Black women as well, showing what you guys are capable of doing in a time where, let's be honest, it's a crazy world we're living in right now, crazier than what us millennials have gone through so far, but kind of used to it because we've 2001 bubble, the 2008 bubble, COVID, and there's all the other bubbles that we've had to deal with. Just feels normal for us, I guess. And from my point of view as a thing. So I love just chatting with you because I get to see the other side.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to, I want to know what advice you would love. I'm going to change it up because usually I ask what advice you would give to your 10-year-old self. But given that you just have a son who just turned 1, I would love to know what advice you would love to give your son when he turns 10 that you may not have thought of giving him all.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And thank you for allowing this space for me to just be in this work. It's so important for us to have allies and to have people that allow us to have these kinds of spaces, and also who are open and willing to ask the hard questions that may or may not even be uncomfortable for you in this space. So I appreciate you, offering this space. Advice that I would give my son: do it scared. Do it scared. Whatever it is, do it scared. You won't know until you do it. And a lot of times the biggest fear you can come up with is really just in your head. So do it scared. Take the jump, try the thing, push yourself beyond whatever limitations you've given yourself. Because it's really our own bubbles, right? It's really our own limitations. We think that the world has us in a box, but there's nobody that's like, Yana, this is the box you have to operate in all the time. It's me that have put myself in this box, or that have told myself I can't or I won't. It's not other people. And so do it scared. Overcome the fear that you have placed upon yourself that keeps you from obtaining the crazy, wild dreams that have been placed on your heart and on your spirit, because it's not given to everybody. And you think it is. You're like, oh, this isn't a cool idea. Anybody could do this. And then you realize that nobody else is even thinking about that. So do it scared.
Great advice. I love that. I mean, you've blown my mind. You've also opened my mind to different aspects, and I want to thank you very much for the kind words you gave to me. I just love learning. That's the biggest thing, is learning from different people. So this is pretty much why I have this podcast, but I thank you very much for your kindness. And before we finish, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to let my audience know how they can get connected with you, how they can support you, whatever you would like to ask of the audience. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you again, Phil, for having me. You all can find me on LinkedIn at Kalyanna Williams. You also can find me on Instagram at YannaBeans, YANNABEANS. I am always available. Please let me know if you have gotten any useful information. I do have a podcast called Spill It Beans on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If there are episodes that you would like to see, information that you would like, advice from me, my door is always open. My inbox is always open. I check all of those things on my own. And thank you again for having me. And I look forward to the next time.
Yanni, I can guarantee you're going to be coming back to this podcast because I've had an amazing time chatting with you both times as well. For my audience, make sure you check out the show notes to connect with Yanni. Her podcast is amazing. Make sure you go listen to it.
Oh, thank you.
Because it's a different podcast than you're normally listen to. So I highly suggest you do it. Yanni, thank you so much for being an amazing guest and sharing your time here with us and your advice and your wisdom that some of us need to hear more often. So I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And one last thing, remember always to invest in yourself.
Thanks for joining us on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. The Podcast Mogul reminds you that your journey to freedom and success starts with one powerful move: investing in yourself. If today's episode sparked your fire, hit that follow button on Spotify and drop us a comment. Share your wins, your challenges, and what drives you to break free from the corporate grind. Remember, you're your best investment. Always invest in yourself because your potential is limitless. Until next time, keep hustling and take control of your destiny.